Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Totally Football show. It's Mother's Day, Sunday the 15th of March, and here in the studio we've got Duncan Alexander. Hi, Duncan.
Hello, James.
Oh, hi. Tim Spiers is with us. Tim's made it all the way down from Nottingham.
Hello, James.
You had a very pleasant journey on the way as well.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Oh, and on the big screen, Adrian Clarke, hot YouTube sensation.
Hello, guys. Yeah, I'm here tonight, respecting the mic, as always.
Yeah.
It's important to do that.
So true. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a sport. It's a sport of moments, isn't it? And that was one of the moments on Saturday. Adrian, you were present for another of the big moments, arguably moment of the season so far, Max Dowman's thrilling scamper for Arsenal's second goal. A shot that was heard around the world. Do you want to hear some French commentary on that?
Yes, please.
Unfortunately, for YouTube reasons, we can't play that to you, but it'll be in the podcast. Woohoo! And here is what it sounded like in Argentina. Except it doesn't for you. I'm so sorry about that. Have you ever heard of the guy called Bambino Pons? He's been rocking Argentine or Spanish language Premier League commentary for about 20 years or so. But when inspired, he breaks into song, but changes the lyrics to reflect the action on the field. And that's what's just happened in that. But again, it'll be in the podcast. Incredible. London Calling, Duncan. Inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, he knows his stuff. They play that song shortly before kickoff at Arsenal. So he literally just changed the words. But I mean, it was a fair, it was a moment that needed such a gesture, I would say. It was very rare that you're watching football and you can feel like you're watching Premier League years live.
Right.
I could feel the importance of that moment as it was happening. And also, it's very rare you see a goal where you know it's going to be a goal for about 10 seconds.
And it's never been seen before by my eyes, where you know it's going to be a goal for 10 seconds, but then there are genuine limbs at the end of it. People are going nuts.
It was like medium, like on a hairdryer, you've got like 2 settings. It was like medium limbs and then full limbs. It was good.
Including in the Arsenal TV commentary blocks.
That's disrespectful to the audience.
Yeah.
I might have looked like the happiest person on the planet at that point. It was glorious. It's one of those, I think, people that were there will remember it probably forever. It's a moment in history, youngest ever Premier League scorer. But if Arsenal do go on to win the league this season, then I think that moment will be replayed over and over again when they tell the story of that success. So it felt big, and we all enjoyed ourselves a lot.
And if Spurs stay up this season, maybe they'll talk about the moment when young Richarlison found the equaliser at Anfield on Sunday afternoon, a game which we just concluded watching. Wasn't the greatest match, but newsworthy all the same. Anyway, we're going to run through now quickly the scores from Matchday 30 and then get stuck into the action. Matchday 30 Sunday saw that 1-1 draw between Liverpool and Tottenham. Szoboszlai opening the scoring with his 4th direct free kick of the season. Richarlison in the 90th minute with the equaliser, earning Spurs their first point under Igor Tudor. In the early games on Sunday, Man United moved up to 3rd with a 3-1 win against Aston Villa. No goals in the other 2 o'clock kickoffs. Nottingham Forest against Fulham and Crystal Palace against Leeds. Leeds, who had Dominic Calvert-Lewin missing a penalty, then went down to 10 men, but still Palace didn't manage a single shot on target. Saturday was a bit more eventful, potentially decisive as Adrian was hinting in the title race. Man City slipping to 9 points behind Arsenal, although with a game in hand, after City drew 1-1 away at West Ham, and Arsenal shortly afterwards found 2 late goals to beat Everton 2-0. Newcastle beat Chelsea 1-0 at the Bridge, only their second ever win there in the history of the Premier League. Chelsea dropping to 6th place. Brighton won 1-0 at Sunderland. Seagulls have now won 3 of their last 4, and Sunderland have now lost 3 straight at home. And the other game was Burnley-Bournemouth, which featured no goals at all. One match remains. That'll be on Monday night when Brentford hosts Tim's Wolves. Looking forward to that, Tim?
Form team in the league. Yep, looking forward to watching them again.
Excellent. Very, very good. Where do we begin today? Oh, with Liverpool Spurs. Hurrah. Let's just see if Any... Yeah, respect the ball. Yeah, okay. Right, bit of comments here, Charlie, is it? Of the Richarlison goal?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you know what it says?
A glimmer of sunshine for
right.
Tottenham.
Right. Glimmer of sunshine for Tottenham. Well, anyway, that Peter Drury said that. Glimmer of sunshine for Tottenham. Well, there we go. Spurs, 90th minute. Richarlison earning Tottenham Hotspur their first point under Tudor. How did this come about? Who actually saw this game? Because, Tim, you were still on your way down, weren't you? Adrian.
I watched this game. Yeah, and look, I think Tottenham were worthy of the point. You know, they were remarkably unshambolic. I fully expected this to be another tonking, that Liverpool would roll them over. You've all seen that long list of absentees, but those guys that did partake, I think, showed improvement, definitely. And look, Richarlison was on a bit of a one-man mission, wasn't he, in this game? I think he had 5 shots, 4 of them hit the target. He was a real threat. I thought Matthias Tell, who I really haven't seen a lot of him really to get excited about since he joined them, he was good. So yeah, Spurs can feel really proud of that point. But from a Liverpool perspective, it's a bad day for Arne Slot. I think it's a really bad day because obviously he's made some big calls with the team selection, leaving out Katika and Salah, among others. And it's just another game where they've conceded a late goal. You know, I think that's the joint most now, that they've conceded it in the last 15 minutes, 15 goals conceded. That's not a good reflection on him and his changes during games. And again, at home to bottom half teams, that's now the 5th time they've failed to win in 8 matches at Anfield against bottom half teams. So, you know, they've won 3 of 8. So, yeah, real bad day for Slot.
They don't look fit, do they? They don't look fit to me. Like, they just fade in every game. I mean, they've let in 8 Premier League goals in the 90th minute or deeper this season, which is the most ever. And it overtakes the 2010-11 season, which is Liverpool fans will remember as not a classic campaign for them. So, I mean, we got tricked, didn't we, at the start of the season, because the first sort of 4 or 5 games, they kept scoring late on. Everyone was like, you know, it's the magic of champions. But, I mean, really, it's been a shambles from start to finish. And as Adrian says, Spurs definitely deserved a point. It's a massive missed chance for Liverpool because obviously United beat Villa early in the day. Chelsea lost yesterday. So, yeah, it's a terrible result.
Just a quick parenthesis here. Is Adrian's mic coming through okay? Very low, we're hearing. Adrian, I know you reduced your level for producer Charlie's delicate ears before.
I've gone back up. Yeah.
You've gone back up. How's that for you, Charlie?
Is that good?
How's that for you on YouTube? Perhaps you'd like to post a comment saying yes or up a bit or down a bit. The House 385, Adrian Legend, but fix your microphone. That's nice. Very pleasant way of putting it. Well, anyway, nobody's commenting yet, so we'll assume that's good. Sorry, Duncan, you were just saying about Spurs deserved it. What did Spurs do different?
Well, I thought it was interesting that in the week, Harry Redknapp was loosely linked with going back to Tottenham. Igor Tudor decided to play in a 4-4-2. You know, yeah, that's how you assimilate. So yeah, he went 4-4-2, and I think it actually helped him. In Solanke and Richarlison as a partnership is not
quite big man, little man, is it?
It's not feed off scrap.
Who is the bigger man?
It's a good question, actually. I'd say Solanke but not by much. But yeah, I mean, it's very much a Shearer.
Name suggests he would be bigger than Solanke.
Yeah, maybe. But very much a sort of Shearer and Sutton sort of double, medium-sized man combo. Rare, but can be effective. But yeah, I just think Tottenham kind of went back to basics.
Okay.
And, I mean, they've still got goalkeeping issues. I mean, Szoboszlai's free kick, I mean, Vicario just put a hand out and flapped it in. But that seemed to galvanise them where, a bit like the second half in the Champions League last week where they did come out. They have done that quite a lot recently, Spurs. They've been abject and then they've gone, hang on, we're not that bad.
Do you think Spurs are reconsidering their apparent plans to find another new manager in the weeks to come?
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? Because, I mean, I think if they'd have got heavily beaten today, then that might have been the end of the Tudors and the beginning of the Stuarts or whoever comes in traditionally afterwards. But this result probably buys them a bit of time. And it's weird because obviously everyone in and around Spurs had the same result this weekend. So we're in exactly the same position, albeit with one game fewer. So you can kind of come out of that game and go, yes, Spurs are in a slightly better place. But statistically, they're not. So if you had doubts going into this weekend, those doubts haven't really gone away. And obviously next weekend is the big one against Nottingham Forest.
Against Nottingham Forest, who you saw today, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not very good at all. But you do wonder, I mean, David Ornstein reported a couple of days ago that they are looking actively for a potential new manager, as you'd expect. And it did cross my mind as to why he hadn't been sacked after the Atletico result. And I did kind of think maybe Liverpool away isn't the ideal match for a first guy to come in, you know. So what I'm saying is, who knows? Perhaps they will still, make that change if they found someone, sufficient in the meantime.
They've got Champions League. They've got the return match against Atletico coming up on, I'm going to say, Wednesday. Right.
And also, just for people who were interested, Dominic is Solankia by 3 centimetres.
Yes.
Okay.
Richarlison.
What a shout.
Nicely done.
That's very. On the subject of Dominic,
just on
I'm going to
that.
just no, Duncan. On the subject of Dominic Szoboszlai,
Oof.
whose free kick we just wrote off by putting it down to goalkeeping error. That is his 4th direct free kick of this season. Do you know what the Premier League record is, Adrian?
For an individual player in a season?
Yes, yes.
I don't. I'm going to
Okay.
guess.
A no would be enough then.
5.
He's nailed it. Do you know who owns that record?
Beckham or Ward-Prowse? I'm hedging my
Well,
bets.
Beckham is one of them. 2 players. David Beckham is one of them.
Okay.
Good shout. The other one, anybody?
Laurent Robert.
Oh, all right then.
His pump.
Yeah. All right.
Can I just make my point that Shane Long is 3 inches
I'm not sure if
short?
your mic is up. Is your mic up? Charlie, yeah. So I think that was all over that bit there. You got them all up. Okay, cool.
I just want to make the point that Shane Long is 3
No, Duncan, can I override you
smaller
now?
than Craig Short.
I'm sorry, what? Now I want to know. How ironic.
Yeah, that's all you get.
It's gone. I'll have to listen back to the podcast to find out.
Yeah.
As I, always do. Very good. Liverpool slipped down to 5th spot. Spurs, as you say, their position doesn't materially change because their rivals, Forest and West Ham, both drew this weekend as well. Next up, they've got that Champions League. 5-2 down from the first leg away in Madrid against Atletico. Liverpool also trailing, although only by 1 goal as they prepare to host Galatasaray. That will be on Wednesday at Anfield, of course. So you've got City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal and Spurs all in action midweek in the Champions League. Famously, none of them won last week. How many of them do you think will actually manage to make it through? Adrian, I imagine you'll say Arsenal. Without going too into depth on why,
Yeah.
which teams do you think will make the
That's a good
quarterfinals?
question, yeah. I think Arsenal will.
Yep.
Chelsea won't. Spurs won't. Liverpool... do you know what? Having just watched them and be so mediocre, you start to wonder whether they do have what it takes to overturn that lead. I think but Newcastle will get beat in Barcelona, so that's 3 out. Who's left? City. They're going out, aren't they? So I think Arsenal and Liverpool will go through just about. But I don't think any of them. There is a scenario where they could all exit, which would just be unreal. And I guess that would make it a top 4 and not a top 5, or it'd certainly swing it a little bit.
It wouldn't be
closer
enough to
that.
do it yet because you've still got. But this Villa are the only team who actually won last week, so there's likely to be one side in the Europa League.
But with the new format of European football, with the big league stages, there's so many games that English teams, it's like 99.9% chance that we get the 5th place.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys? Do you foresee any of the teams
there'll be one-
doing a magic and making it through?
I think Newcastle will get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. We'll go on to the game with Chelsea, but they set a template for how they need to do it in the week. I think they can sneak through.
Wow. Okay.
I think one of the 3-goal down crew, be that Spurs,
But which, Duncan?
but be it Chelsea or be it Manchester City, one of those is going to go through.
You reckon?
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not going to say which one.
I don't know. I've not been informed.
You don't.
I've seen a glimpse of the script, but I've not seen.
I
the
think
full
City
script.
could do it out of the three. I think
They could
City
all
are
do
the
it,
most
Adrian.
likely.
It's the
I know they
magic
could.
of-
And it is a good shout on Newcastle because they've got the formula to unlock Barca's high line. I think so. Yeah, it's it could be much more exciting than anticipated.
All right. Greedy Giles says, I can see Tottenham doing it. Tudor had some remontadas with Marseille and Atletico are often weaker in the return leg. Duncan's jumper looks like it's made from snakeskin, says Callum 9511. It is actually. That's a great spot. And Will Spurs says that Liverpool away was our second hardest fixture remaining. Forest have a much harder run in. Well, we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about the Chelsea-Newcastle game, which Tim was just referencing very, very shortly. But before any of that, we'll get on to the early games from Sunday next. Are you going with comms for the Man United 3, Aston Villa 1?
Yep. Could be the Cunha goal, which was the best goal. Or
I don't mind.
Sesko to make it 3-1.
All right, then. Man United, they're for real. Third in the Premier League. In fact, had the campaign started when D.I. Carrick, the hard-bitten cop with a past, first turned up in his beaten overcoat on the Old Trafford sidelines. Had it started then...
Which a lot of people campaign for.
they would be top of the league. Wow. Michael Shearer, hello Michael, says, would United be challenging Arsenal had Amorim been sacked last summer? By those numbers, yes. Yes.
I mean, even if they'd have got rid of Amorim in October or November, they probably would be in and around the title race. I mean, they're only 7 points behind Manchester City in real life.
How many?
7. You know. Just saying. Just looking at league tables.
Incredible. The numbers regarding Bruno Fernandes bear repeating as well. He produced 2 assists in this game. He's now up to 16 in the Premier League this season. I think he's picked up 9 since the turn of the year, perhaps due to the fact that he was being used as a defensive midfielder by Carrick's visionary predecessor. But yeah, what a player, Adrian.
Yeah, he's enjoying a cracking campaign, isn't he? I mean, a lot of the assists come from set pieces. There was another one today. You know, beautiful delivery for Casemiro to attack it at the near stick. But look, he's closing in on the all-time record, isn't he? Or the Premier League record of 20. So yeah, he's on 16. He's got double the next player, who's Ryan Cherky. So yeah, fantastic performance from him. And the pass to release Cunha for I think it was the second goal was a thing of beauty, wasn't it? Inside the defender, perfectly weighted. He is a class player. If you look at all the stats, he smashes everybody out of the park. He's way ahead in every creative metric this season. So yeah, fair play. He also created 6 chances in this game alone. So yeah, he's having a top season.
He did that same pass again a little bit later on for Cesco, but didn't go quite as well. Cesco's touch wasn't as...
Cesco tried. I think he maybe tried to do the Thierry Henry finish to the far corner or pass it, and he ended up just shanking it out. But he still scored. Still came off the bench and scored, which is his new thing. I mean, I think what we can take from this game is that Manchester United's front four are very interchangeable. They've, with Bruno behind them. I mean, we talk, don't we, about these Premier League records that we know that some are unbeatable. Chelsea conceding, someone beating Chelsea's 15 goals conceded in a season, or Derby County. We know that's never going to get beaten. But the 20 assist record,
right?
People have come close. Well, obviously Kevin De Bruyne equalled it a few years ago. He's got 8 games. He needs 4 to match it and 5 to beat it. I think it's on.
We shall see. Lost Properties' Ross Barkley had equalised. He's now scored in back-to-back Premier League starts, but the previous one was in January 2025. But that was about where the good news ended for Aston Villa. We've now had 3 Premier League defeats in a row. They were the only one, as I mentioned before, the 9 English sides in Europe to actually get a victory last week, but the reasons for them falling off quite so much, in a nutshell, Adrian, what are they?
Oh, I think it was mainly to do with the midfield being decimated. Obviously, they lost, I think, 3 players all at once. So any cluster injury is an issue. I think the protection that those guys provide for the back four is massive, and we've seen that the back four maybe is a bit more fragile than we first thought. Because everything about Villa, what they do is about congesting the middle of the pitch. You know, they squeeze up, don't they, to make it really, really congested in the middle third, and it's about winning the ball there and going and releasing Watkins and Rodgers to go on and hurt the opposition. And if your three in the midfield aren't as good as your best three, if they're way down on your best three, that's going to impact you in defence. It's going to impact the ball that you create for the forwards as well. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I also think Emery has always been guilty of overthinking. And again today, you know, Rodgers has played as a number 10 for weeks on end. He's their best player. And, you know, in this one, McGinn comes in at 10 and he has to play in that wider role, which he reverted back later in the game. So Emery, you know, in part, hasn't been great as well.
I see. Aston Villa still in the top 5. What's the points differential there? Aston Villa still in the top 5. They are in 4 spots, 3 points behind Man United and 2 ahead of Liverpool, with Chelsea trailing in 6th spot as it stands. Meantime, sorry, Tim.
So just on Villa, they did have that huge XG over performance, as Duncan will know well, which still very much exists. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they sort of approach the rest of the season now, because maybe Europa League's a better bet for them to get into the Champions League.
Indeed. Nottingham Forest 0, Fulham 0 earlier on Sunday. Tim, you were there. 7 Premier League home games without a win for Forest. 1 goal from their last 99 shots at the City Ground. You're not going to stay up like that.
Yeah, I've not been to City Ground since August, 2 managerial reigns ago for Nuno's last match. And yeah, I'd say the City Ground in the few years they've been in the Premier League is one of the noisiest and most atmospheric grounds in the division every time you go, no matter who they're playing or what's sort of happening with them. But today, well, they had this, everyone was given a free scarf before kick-off, which is a nice touch, you know, to sort of whip them up and get them going. And it was a big atmosphere before the game. They had a big Brian Clough quote, sort of tifo thing, which is we hope nobody's going to write us off, or something like that. No, we hope nobody's stupid enough to write us off, something like that, which I think he said during the European Cup run. But then the game started and it just went silent, and the game was terrible. Forest has had nothing about them whatsoever, and it just suggested, well, you can just hear by the very silence the disillusionment the fans have got with the team right now. And not surprising, it was just sort of fairly listless, and none of the players on the same wavelength. Countless balls going behind for a goal kick, and fans getting on their backs sort of pretty early on, and it was a real sort of nothing game with 2 pretty similar teams with no sort of cutting edge, basically. Forest did get better in the second half. They hit the bar through Aina with a sort of a 20-yard volley. And then they scored. We all thought. It looked to the naked eye like Dan Ndoye was level with the Fulham defender when the ball was played through. But after the VAR had a look at it, he was offside in a really unusual body part.
Would you say? The back of his heel?
Yeah, the back of his heel, because him and the defender was stood facing play as the ball was knocked through, and then Ndoye sort of spins really quickly, and really, really nice finish, actually. But he was a heel offside, which I haven't seen before.
No, that's a new one. We've had a few good ones recently. We've had face, haven't we? Like edge of face.
Nose. We had a nose.
Yeah, head, shoulders, etc. Yeah.
There you go. Goalless there. Forest had the only 2 shots on target in that game. Leeds had the only 3 in their match at Palace, despite the fact that they were away from home and playing with just 10 men for the second half. In fact, one of our Nick writes in. Nick says, "Is it time for Glasner to go? Were they that bad in this game? Who saw this match?"
Yeah, I saw it. They weren't good. There's big boos at the end of the game from the Palace fans. Leeds actually have become the first team since Premier League records began in 2004 not to concede a shot on target when they had a player sent off in the first half. So that's not a record that Crystal Palace will feel very proud of. 12 shots, nothing on target. They had 80% of possession in the second half. Did very, very little with it. They don't like having lots of possession, do they, Palace? It probably didn't suit them. But I thought that Glasner you know, he didn't change it. You know, you got the man advantage. Leeds have sacrificed 2 attackers. Did he really need the back 3? Well, he stuck with it, I think, to about the 80th minute, and then he made a change and went to more of a 4. I think he could have changed that much sooner. Brennan Johnson played as a right wing back. Not sure about that. He would not have fancied that. And he was lucky, actually, to not get a second yellow card, Brennan Johnson. So I don't know if you've seen the game, but basically it was Gudmundsson, the left back for Leeds, got an early yellow card, and then he gets carded just before half time for a very innocuous soft tackle. It's an incredibly harsh yellow, but the referee Thomas Bramwell clearly has forgotten that he'd already cautioned him, and there's a big delay, and then he's told, and he whips out the red. So, and Gudmundsson can't believe it. So, you know, that was a bit of a nightmare. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a penalty for Palace had a handball in the box. Calvert-Lewin, he did a weird sort of 2-step run up and then dragged his shot wide. So, yeah, Leeds will be disappointed that they weren't leading at half-time because they were definitely the better team. But in the end, obviously, any point you can get with 10 men is decent. But Palace, yeah, the fans won't be happy with what they saw there. They are a shadow, aren't they, Palace, of the team that we saw in the sort of September, October, November. I thought that team was one of the hardest teams to play against in the entire Premier League. At the moment, it's just got nothing about them.
Well, they've lost players since then. Lost interest as well, possibly.
Muno's been injured is a big loss. I mean, hence Johnson playing. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't see this game today, but I did sit through Palace Larnaca on Thursday night,
right,
for work purposes. And it was so. It might be one of the, I think it might be. It's in my top 3 of worst games I've ever seen.
Wow.
Right.
I just felt sorry for the Palace fans because, you know, their first ever European campaign, and it was just so lethargic.
So this was 0-0 at home to Larnaca.
Yeah. Well, they already lost 1-0 at home to them earlier in the season as well. I mean, goodness me.
They travel to Cyprus on Thursday. Forest will be looking to reverse their 1-0 defeat at the hands of Midtjylland, also at home last week. Aston Villa, they had a 1-0 win, I think it was against Lille in the Europa League. A rare victory for an English side. Very good. Next up, let's get on to Saturday's news. Some important tidings about that title race. Woo! Is that Argentine commentator again? Juan Manuel Bambino Pons. This time talking about Gyökeres's opening strike for Arsenal. If you enjoy that, I urge you to find Bambino Pons' earlier work, the Goal des Skulls, done to the tune of Eye of the Tiger, Skulls, Goal des Skulls, etc. and so on. You all know the tune. There's a Kevin Phillips one for Southampton, but I digress. Anyway, that was the one where Gyökeres, much to the relief of the assembled Arsenal supporting people at the Emirates on Saturday, finally broke the deadlock against Everton. Did that and West Ham hand Arsenal the title, Adrian?
No. The title's not done yet. There's work to be done, and there's probably 1 or 2 tense matches left to face. But it felt like a fairly seismic weekend, didn't it, in terms of the title race, with Arsenal getting that dramatic late win and then City dropping points. So yeah, no, it feels good, you know, from an Arsenal perspective. I think the big thing is there's nearly a month now to the next Premier League game. It's April the 11th when Arsenal next play in the Premier League at home to Bournemouth. So they can sit pretty for quite some time now while we have the cup competitions and the international break. But yeah, no, it was a good game. Everton were really good. Had decent chances. They were dangerous. But Arsenal played well. Arsenal had a real urgency about them. I can assure you, all of those people that have been slamming Arsenal for time wasting, there was none of that on show here. It was sort of get the ball down and play, and they did everything quickly. But until Dowman came on, they lacked a little bit of courage to someone to just go and do something on their own, go and take someone on, go and make something happen. Everyone was sort of passing on the baton without really going and hurting Everton enough. barring Ezza's 7 shots, 6 from outside the box. So yeah, Dowman was the game changer, and his cross for the first was sensational. It forced a big mistake from Pickford, and obviously we all saw what happened in injury time. So yeah, this kid is just an insane talent. He is unbelievable.
The 98th minute then, Everton by this point are trailing to the Gyökeres goal. Pickford has decided to go up in search of an equaliser, and Everton have a corner. And tension is written large across the face of the Arsenal commentators and pretty much everybody watching of an Arsenal persuasion. And instead, we get this extraordinary run. Duncan, Tim.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many elements of it that I love. Obviously, Martinelli wins the header in the box, and the Everton player who should be challenging him for the header is Pickford. He's the nearest Everton player, but he's like, I'm a goalkeeper. I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to be doing right here. So Martinelli heads the ball to Dowman, who then heads it himself to get past the first defender, and then Dewsbury Hall's there, and he just does this wonderful shimmy, knocks it with his left foot, but then immediately pushes it forward with his right, and it just looks, however many times you watch it, it's just such a graceful moment. And then he's running through, obviously, to the empty net, but as the Everton defenders run back, Martinelli does this NFL-style block. He just runs across their path, which it wasn't a foul, but it was just such good teamwork there. And then, obviously, Dowman rolls it in, and as we mentioned earlier, bedlam ensued.
Bedlam. Tim, anything you want to add to that?
Just an incredible moment. It reminded me, obviously the Rooney comparisons are obvious, but it also, the game reminded me of the Bournemouth win that they had a few years ago, Arsenal in the title race, with a sort of dramatic, jubilant scenes at the end. Some of the numbers for his performance are remarkable. The most dribbles of any player, despite the fact he came in the 74th minute. Only Declan Rice created more chances in the whole match. Only Gabriel won more fouls in the whole match. But
I mean, to Adrian's point a minute ago, that it was noticeable that as soon as he came on, the Arsenal players were like trying to give him the ball.
Yeah.
It was, they knew that he was the one that could do something, and I think that's what, you often get young players who come into teams at certain points of the season and do well, but I think there's a level of respect and kind of anticipation with him that I think you probably only get once in a generation.
He hasn't taken his GCSEs yet. He is the second youngest scorer ever to net a top-flight goal. The record holder is still Jason Dozell. 16 years and 57 days. Let's see, how many days is Dowman?
73.
73, so it's close.
I mean, in some ways, he's wasted his career, but yeah, fine.
Right, Premier League record holder was James Vaughan. So Dowman's now ahead of him. Adrian, you got your hand up. Were you in this running?
No, I'm afraid not.
Right.
No. Look, every number, he smashed records ever since he started playing. At 13 years of age, he scored for the under-18s. He's been playing up 3 or 4 age groups for England. Nothing he's done so far has been ordinary. I genuinely haven't seen anyone. I haven't seen anyone his age on the same planet, really. But in terms of the speed of his dribbling and the smoothness that Duncan talked about there, where he moves the ball from one foot to the other, I just haven't seen that from any other Arsenal player. That's for sure. He's got something very, very special. I also wanted to mention 2 other players. David Raya, who's had a great season, made a big save. Low to his left early on in the second half, stuck out a left leg. That was amazing. And I don't know if you saw the Calafiori block, but that for me was one of the best defensive sort of interventions that I've seen in ages, because he's on the floor doing a press up, and McNeil's got the ball under control, and he just instinctively sticks up his leg, doesn't he, in quite an unnatural position, and makes just a ridiculous block.
What I thought was extraordinary about that was that had he waited for the shot to stick his leg up, he never would have made it in time. He actually throws his leg in the air in anticipation of the shot, so that as they're coming down, they can block them, or something like that. It was amazing. How worried should Saka be about Max Dowman? They play in the same position, Adrian.
Yeah, they do. I don't think he'll be worried. Saka, I think Saka can play in different positions. Max Dowman isn't a natural right winger, believe it or not. He's more of your number 10 guy. So over time, he will be competing, I think, more with Eze and with Ødegaard. But what happened here, actually, which I think found quite interesting, was when Dowman came on, he went into Saka's position on the right wing, and Saka came infield to be that sort of right-sided number 8. And we have seen Arteta use Saka that way a few times lately. So they can definitely play together. I think that for the rest of this season, Dowman will be your impact guy. I don't see him starting lots of games. I think he's a great ace card to have up Arsenal's sleeve, in matches that are close, where they need that little bit of inspiration. But long term, I mean, this guy is going to be one of the first names on the team sheet, that is for sure. Honestly, he could be the best talent we've seen in the Premier League to emerge from the academies. I think he's up there. Rooney probably holds that at the moment, doesn't he? But from what I've seen of Max, I think he can be even better.
Wow, better than Rooney. Shock silence here in the studio. I'll just say that Arsenal will be hosting Leverkusen on Tuesday, 1-1 from the first leg in Germany. Leverkusen didn't have a good weekend. They took on 9-man Bayern Munich, who are without a goalkeeper, any goalkeeper at this point, and only drew 1-1. Man City, 9 points behind now after they drew with West Ham on Saturday evening. They've been this far behind before, famously against Man United, and come back to take the title on the final day. If they win all their remaining games and Arsenal lose once, I think, then City will take it. Tim, do you believe?
Well, it'd be down to goal difference at that point.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's not over yet. I mean, they play each other twice in the coming weeks, and those are going to be both going to have a huge impact, I think. The League Cup final next weekend, if City were to win that in extremely dominant fashion, for example, or if they were to win it with, a last-second winner, for example, then Arsenal get the chokers tag sort of thrown at them again, and questions are asked to their mentality again. So that will have a bearing, I think. And then obviously the league game, and if they do beat them at the Etihad, then and they win the game in hand, which I think is against Palace, then it's down to 3 points again. So it's definitely not over. But having watched City on Saturday night, their last two matches dropping points to Forest and West Ham, there's no evidence there that they're going to win every game for the rest of the season.
Indeed not. Bernardo Silva gave them the lead at the London Stadium, sparking much debate about his intentions, but it certainly looked spectacular.
Did he mean it? People said. And people went, yeah, maybe.
Maybe he did. Yeah. He had a cheeky grin afterwards. Read from that what you will. However, within minutes, Mavropanos had equalised. Mavropanos would later make a significant contribution to West Ham's point by putting his face between Erling Haaland's thunderous shot and the West Ham net. How is Mavropanos' face? Does anybody know?
I think he's bounced back.
Nice.
Nice. I mean, do you remember in Alex Ferguson's last season in charge of Manchester United, he said Ashley Williams of Swansea nearly killed Robin van Persie because he cleared a ball and it hit Robin van Persie, and everyone went, he didn't. I mean, this was more like that. I mean, Haaland didn't do much all game, but he caught that ball full on, and it just went straight into Mavropanos' face. And there's a couple of images where you can't see where the face ends and the ball starts. I don't know whether Puma want to use that in some sort of advertising campaign, but it's yeah. I mean, he was down for quite a long time. There were a few City players milling around, sort of going, "Oh, he's milking it." He was not milking it. It was a full deformed face situation, which no one wants to see in the modern game.
Indeed not. West Ham now have only had 2 defeats in the last 12 in all competitions as they battle to escape the bottom 3. City, meantime, Tim, you mentioned their recent results. They've only had 1 win in their last 4. They've drawn with West Ham, Forest and Spurs in recent weeks. Erling Haaland's only scored 4 goals in his last 18 matches. And the craziest stat of the weekend, the fact that no Manchester City substitute has scored since the opening day when Ryan Cherky netted for them. That's amazing.
Yeah, especially with the bench week in, week out.
Right. Why would that be?
Guardiola was chastising himself yesterday for selecting the wrong team, and Shirky came on and made an instant impact. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know.
Adrian, you got any thoughts? Why would it be with that squad, as Tim mentions, that they've had one goal from a substitute all season?
It doesn't make sense because the talent is clearly there. It's not as if they're sending on players that aren't of a high level or high caliber. So no, it doesn't make any sense. All I know is that Arsenal have had 11 goals scored by substitutes, which I think is a high. So that is, I think if you look at the goal difference, it's 7. So that's contributed to the superior goal difference and the points tally as well. So it really does make a difference. He can look at himself, Pep Guardiola, and you can probably say, has he made the wrong call there on multiple occasions? Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but I don't know.
Well, quite literally on Saturday, because he had a touchline ban, so he was in the stands, and he was communicating by phone, which I thought was a lovely sort of 90s throwback. You used to get a lot of managers would sit and have like a landline, wouldn't they, to the bench?
Yeah, Sam Allardyce style.
Sheffield Wednesday was very that was a quite Sheffield Wednesday thing, energy-wise. Yeah. But I think Pep's was an iPhone, but it's still the same communication system.
Same paradigm.
What I would say is that they completely dominated that game. The shot count was 24-1. 15 corners to 1. 40 touches in the box to West Ham 6. They can probably count themselves a little bit unlucky that they didn't win that game. I don't think it was a disastrous display by any stretch. Gahi at the end has got to score that chance. That's a massive miss, isn't it? But well done West Ham.
Well done West Ham.
Yeah, Nuno changed the goalie recently. Hermansson's come in and he keeps keeping clean sheets. I think 3 and 4. Bowen's got 3 assists in consecutive matches. So, yeah, it's. But this one, I think West Ham were a little bit fortunate.
Did you want to add anything, Duncan, or shall I mention that City have a huge game coming up ahead of the Carabao Cup final on Tuesday when they welcome Real Madrid to the Etihad? They are 3 goals down from the first leg. No team has ever overturned a first leg 3-goal deficit against the Merengues in the European Cup. And Real Madrid were in blistering form this weekend.
Arda Güler's.
Did you see? Did you see that goal? Have you seen that goal? It's extraordinary. I preferred, actually. I was going to say I preferred the Valverde's latest goal, which was pretty much the entire Madrid outfield 10 passing it around, and then he eventually puts it away, curls it in.
He's had a good week.
Yeah. But Güler's is. Yeah.
When you hear that goals are scored from the halfway line, and it's sometimes it's 40 yards out, and you can't say that. But again, I heard halfway line, and I looked up, and that doesn't do justice. It's inside his own half.
See, we've become so desensitized to long-range goals or halfway line goals that when I first heard about it, I was like, I can imagine that, and then you see it, and and it goes so high.
Right.
Only in that redeveloped ground could it have,
68 yards, I believe.
68 metres, I think.
Sorry, 68 metres, which is roughly the similar distance. But yeah, I don't know. Adrian, is it an overrated skill? Is it just hoof and hope?
Well, I couldn't do it now, that's for sure. You need to be a younger man, I think, to do it. But no, it's all about technique. To kick the ball that far, it's all about how you plant your feet and use your body weight. So no, I think it's a skill, definitely.
And it's also clever because Elche are known as this sort of they're the hipsters La Liga team. Their goalkeeper basically plays as a centre half. Tom Harris of the Athletic is very keen on this goalkeeper, but the option's there to do that, to go from downtown, as they say in basketball.
68 metres is 74 yards.
Is that right?
Almost a 75-yarder.
That's brilliant.
Madness. Anyway, that's who's turning up to the Etihad on Tuesday. Arsenal, meantime, will be welcoming Bayer Leverkusen and their travelling support. And those two teams will then face each other, Arsenal and Man City, in the Carabao Cup next weekend. Next up, let's get on to Chelsea, Newcastle. Yay. I never talked about Tudor mistaking. I was going to do it in my intro, but do we want to talk about that? Or no, we're fine with that. Is this comms or not worthy of comms or what? Chelsea, Newcastle?
Be the Gordon goal.
Gordon goal, right, okay. Tim, well done, Newcastle. winning away, also winning without their midfield.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time in Eddie Howe's 171 Premier League games in charge that none of Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes or Tonali started. And they said that before the match. I was like, well, there's no way they're going to win this. It's probably the most impressive victory of the whole season, certainly in the Premier League. You know, in between the two Barcelona matches, to make 6 changes, to go to Chelsea away, and I know Chelsea having their sort of inconsistent struggles, but still, Newcastle have not beaten any of the top 7 in any match before this one. And they'd only ever won at Chelsea once in the Premier League era, which we all remember.
Yeah.
The Papi Cisse game.
Sensible soccer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
With the,
His goal where he hits it,
right.
and it's the most sensible soccer goal ever scored, I would posit.
Apart from maybe in sensible soccer.
No, I think it would be...
Even counting sensible soccer goals. But Tim, as you were saying, you also mentioned how this was very much a blueprint for what they might try and do against the Blaugrana.
Yeah, potentially, because they were sort of unashamed about the fact that they weren't really trying to attack too much. It was very much attack v counter-attack. And it was the perfect away performance. They were extremely committed to a man. You know, you look at Voltemada and Gordon just constantly tracking back. They defended really as a team. Chelsea had a lot of shots, but only 3 on target. I think they had 22 shots in total, but only 3 on target. And yeah, you know, Newcastle took their time. They had 2 yellows for time wasting and went to a back 5 at the end. But so what? Tudor and Botman were immense at the back. And yeah, they scored this very unusual goal.
Did Chalobah and Fofana respect the ball so much they had to stand by and let it pass?
I mean,
is that what
it was? It was an interesting match, but I couldn't stop thinking about the huddle for the whole game. To be honest,
it's so stupid. It's not helping in any way, is it? Like it's nonsense.
It hadn't really registered with me, but this has been going on for several weeks.
Yeah,
Chelsea will at the start of each half of the match stand and surround the football in the centre circle.
Yeah,
and take their own sweet time in having a huddle, essentially.
I mean, I'd say 80% of teams do a pre-match huddle. That's fine,
but not half in the opposition half.
Yeah, not like a kind of, I don't know. This looks like a sort of child's rugby game where they're just shuffling around, keeping the ball. I don't know. It's odd.
So Portini, apparently, according to Liam Rosenior, whose comments we'll get onto perhaps in a second, Portini had mentioned this to Chelsea staff ahead of the game, and was then standing next to the ball in the centre circle when the Chelsea players came to make their huddle, which is why he ended up surrounded by them in a vaguely aggressive and menacing fashion. I half expected a Wicker Man to be kind of opening interview on the sideline. But, you know, he smiled and Cole Palmer gave him a hug, and that was all fine. Vicky R commenting on The Athletic, on-pitch huddles are nothing but performative garbage anyway. You've literally spent ages in the dressing room together before the match where you can say all you want to say, so it's entirely unnecessary and has become an act of gamesmanship designed to keep the opposition, well, I didn't pace the rest, but off their game or something. What do you think, Adrian? Is that fair?
I get it. I get that. I think
Did you do them at Southend?
We didn't do huddles. No. Maybe did I do huddles later in my career? Maybe we did. I'm not against them at all, because it is actually one last chance to sort of have that, you know, final message from the players, you know. But nothing sort of that game changing is said in those huddles. I would imagine. I just found it bizarre that they didn't let him out of the circle, and that he was happy to stay inside the circle. I think the referee made himself look a bit of an idiot, and really? I think that the Chelsea players also look like idiots. I think no one really comes out of that looking clever. In my opinion,
people talk about things that bring the game into disrepute,
right?
Which normally they don't. But that does. It makes football look stupid.
All right. So Chelsea were respecting the ball. That was their way of respecting it. Did somebody mishear and thought respect the ball? Could it have been that?
Yeah, could be.
So Liam Rosenior afterwards he said, I'm going to make it really clear. I want to protect my players, and I'm sure they're very grateful for his protection. But he then says that was not my decision. That was a decision between the leadership group and the team. So I'm not sure in what way his comments are protecting his players. But he continues, if Paul had focused more on his job, Paul Tierney, which was to make the right decisions, we would have had a penalty today, the Voltemade challenge on Cole Palmer. What do you think, Tim?
about what Rossini said.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. Was it not just funny? Was it not just, the Chelsea players found it funny?
Yeah.
Right.
Tierney gave like a David Brent look to camera, like he found it funny. I'm sure we've all got Louis Theroux on the brain if it's in the documentary, but it did look like Tierney was Louis Theroux in a Chelsea documentary. Just sort of, it's a bit awkward. But yeah, like, why does somebody have to be offended? In this case, Liam Rossini. Why is he making a complaint? Was it not just a bizarre, funny incident?
He started
Not just
doing
move
that
on?
when they played the second leg of the Carabao Cup at Arsenal. He complained about some of the substitutes straying into Chelsea's half when they were warming up. He seems to be the most territory-obsessed manager I've ever come across.
And yet,
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that, it was just the goalie kicking balls, practicing the goal kicks or whatever. Every team does that, and occasionally the ball might go into the opposition half. He had no real grounds for that. Now, it is all a bit weird. I think it's a great deflection tactic, though, because that goal that Chelsea scored might be one of the most calamitous, poorest goals that any team has conceded this season. For your two centre-backs to be that wide apart, going man-to-man on Gordon and Voltemada, and to leave that big gap in the middle, and then for Reece James, who's playing central midfield, to not really react to that and be the wrong side of Willock was downright abject. But the worst bit is, and watch the goal back, is Fofana's attitude. When he runs back, he's got a head start over Gordon, and he jogs. And Gordon sprints and gets 5-6 yards ahead of him to get himself a tap in. It looked like he couldn't care less. I thought it was a real bizarre goal. And if I was a manager, I would be trying to deflect away from the shambolic nature of that particular concession. One other thing I want to say on Chelsea is that 11 of their players had a pass accuracy. Obviously, 11 of the players that were used had a pass accuracy of over 90% in this game. And I think that is, on the face of it, you might think, that's brilliant. No one's giving the ball away. But I think that is part of the problem. It's just too much safe 5-yard pass, and not enough of players sort of showing a little bit of individualism.
they're missing a Bruno Fernandes, perhaps, or missing a Pedro Neto, who wasn't able to feature in this one. May not be available indeed for the return leg against Paris Saint-Germain, depending on what view they take on his altercation with the ball boy. Respect the ball, not the ball boy, very much the maxim among Chelsea. Boos as well, I should mention that. Booed at half-time and booed at the final whistle by the Stamford. No, Tim?
Not so much at full-time, but yeah, at half-time.
Half-time,
yeah.
right. 5 points from the last 5 Premier League matches. Well, they dropped to 6th. Huge week, not just for them, of course, with Paris Saint-Germain, but also Newcastle, who travelled to the Camp Nou to see if they can match this away performance, because a 1-0 win there would take them through to the quarterfinals at the Catalans' expense. Very good. Of course, we'll have a Totally Football show, by the way, European edition, out on Tuesday morning, looking ahead to all the Champions League matches and the Real Madrid performance. Oh, and also the exciting news from Italy that Ashley Cole has become manager of Cesena. Ashley Cole, who has never been a manager before. He's been assistant at Everton with the England setup as well, but he's taken over Cesena in the Italian second division, Serie B. They've got a match on Tuesday at Mantova, where they'll be taking on the manager that they fired to install. Let me put it this way. He's taken over from a guy called Michele Mignani, and the manager that they fired to bring in Mignani is the guy who's in charge of Mantova, who they'll take over on Tuesday. So taking on Tuesday. Anyway, we'll hear more details from James Horncastle in Tuesday's Totally Football show. We've got shows coming up on Wednesday and Thursday as well, reacting to the midweek Champions League action. Next up in today's show, unless there's anything else you wanted to say about events at Stamford Bridge, Tim, we'll get on to some of the other matches on Saturday. Tim approves. That's where we're heading. Women's League Cup final took place on Sunday. Chelsea beat Man United 2-0. You can hear more about that in Straight Out of Cobham this week, and probably also a bit in Talk of the Devils, the Man United podcast. In Scottish title race news, Hearts got beat at Kilmarnock on Saturday. That's their third away defeat in a row. Rangers beat St Mirren on Sunday, which means that the top three in the Scottish Premiership are separated by just 3 points with 8 games to go. That's a title race. Woof. Sunderland lost at home again this weekend. This was Saturday afternoon. Brighton were the away side, and Minte was the scorer of the winning goal. Somehow, Duncan.
Yes, I don't think he planned it that way, but if it goes in the net, you take it. He got to the byline, and Granit Xhaka gave him a big old shove just as he was about to pull the ball back in a cross manoeuvre, as it's known. And he ended up just slicing it with his right foot, and it just kind of, sliced into the net. And he celebrated as was his right.
Right, as a former Newcastle man should.
Well, he didn't play for Newcastle,
right?
But he did get paid by Newcastle for a bit. So yeah, I mean, Brighton are just. I mean, what I find interesting in the let me get the table up. What I find interesting with Brighton and Fulham is they are taking different routes to become the two most mid-table teams this season. So Brighton have now got a record of played 30, won 10, drawn 10, lost 10, scored 39, getting 36. That's the purest mid-table team. Whereas Fulham have they're going for the not many draws approach. So they're on 12 wins, 13 defeats. So again, it's also an acceptable way to do it, but it's a fascinating battle to keep an eye on as the season reaches a crescendo.
That's my favourite word in football, fascinating. Whenever anybody uses that, I know there's something really interesting is going on. I'm just going to take a quick parenthesis here because there's a couple of comments that'd be nice to drop into perhaps the previous bit or at the start of this bit, because this bit's going to be a bit shorter. That's good news, eh? Couple of comments. Nick Hamblin says, shout out for Anthony Gordon responding to the criticism from Rooney and Shearer for not starting against Barcelona. He felt, and not surprisingly, felt pretty mortified at the suggestions that he had voluntarily excused himself from the first leg against the Catalans because he wasn't in the starting lineup.
Yeah, so he came out with a few details, which I think if Rooney and Shearer had known about, they wouldn't have criticised. Was Rooney and Shearer? Wouldn't have criticised the fact they didn't start. He said he'd basically been in bed for 3 days, and he wanted to start. It was Eddie Howe's decision for him not to start against Barcelona, which he wasn't very happy with. And then Rooney had sort of mentioned that Gordon, after his warm-up pre-match, Gordon didn't shake Rooney's hand because he said, because I'm ill, I don't want to pass on my illness to you, Wayne. But then Rooney was like, then he's gone in the dressing room, so he must be passing around the dressing room. Whereas Gordon revealed that he actually had his own sort of solitary confinement dressing room.
Really? Much of a diva.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So he kind of bit back at the criticism in some style. Really,
right.
Having scored the winning goal.
Yeah. We shall see if he bites back against Barcelona. Adrian, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, I just think from my own personal experience, going back a bit since I've played, but there were probably throughout my, starting as a kid, going through my professional career, there were probably 10 occasions where I was probably ill. And you think, I feel bad, I'm not that bad, but I'll give it a go. And let me tell you, it is never worth it. Because you've seen how fast these matches are played out. Have you seen the energy these guys are using up? It's going to make you worse, and you're going to look bad, and you're not going to help anybody. So all this nonsense about, I don't know. He should sort of get through it. I think it's garbage. It's a physical game, and if you're not right and 100%, you won't perform. So I think Howe did the right thing.
Yeah, I think the criticisms were more his reaction, or his supposed reaction to it. That was the way I understood it. But Duncan, sorry.
No, but I think to Tim's point that there's the attitude was that it's, a real player doesn't miss a game through illness.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And I think, you go back to 96, 97 and Middlesbrough literally got relegated because they were very ill and couldn't fulfil a fixture at Blackburn.
Right.
And said, we can't play this game because everyone's ill.
Spurs,
famously. Well, yeah, but they played the game. And
look what happened.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean?
They made the runs despite the runs.
Well, exactly, yeah. Kevin Lasagna was born that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should have, particularly in this decade, maybe a more enlightened attitude to viral load.
Nick Hamblin, who's our star posted today also says he looks forward to the Cesena team photo with Cole just off to the side. I'm sure we all thought about that when we saw the news, that famous team photo with Ashley. And he very much was off in his own personal space with that Roma 11. Roma 10 and Ashley Cole. Very nice. Very nice. Now, Sunderland played Brighton, and then we'll get into that. Super duper. Sorry, Duncan, what was the last thing you said? I bet you can't remember before I brought in all of that.
Can't remember my mid-table super.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Next up, for Sunderland, they'll be facing lots of people paid by Newcastle in the shape of, quite literally, Newcastle in what should be a fascinating time-weird derby. That's at St James's Park. The other game on Saturday, you perhaps struggle to call fascinating. I don't know if you've been able to catch up on any of Burnley 0, Bournemouth 0, Tim.
Not a huge amount, other than John McKenzie's tweet kind of tells you a lot about the game. John McKenzie of Tifo fame. Bournemouth had 2.88 XG, 2.20 from open play, but 0.07 XG on target, which kind of tells the story of their game against Burnley.
Right. 10 games unbeaten for the Cherries, though, so there's that. A lot of draws. Tim's Wolves take on Brentford on Monday night.
Yeah, so Wolves are the only team in the country to not win away from home yet this season. But who hasn't been to an away game yet, and who's going on Monday night? So, 5-0 Brentford.
Who is going on Monday night?
I'm going on Monday
Oh,
night.
are you? Okay, nice one.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, enjoy that, Tim.
I'll try.
Big
match for Brentford, because with Liverpool and Chelsea and Villa all slipping up, if Brentford win, they're on 47, which is 2 points off fifth.
Seriously?
Yep.
Remarkable.
Absolutely. Would not joke about that.
Remarkable. Well, so many fascinating narratives are playing out in these remaining rounds of the season. Looking forward to seeing what awaits midweek. We, as mentioned, have a European show coming up on Tuesday, and then an extra show on Wednesday, and then your regular show on Thursday. For now, though, I say we park this particular bus there. Salute you, Adrian Clarke. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Pleasure. Loved it.
Thank you to Duncan Alexander and Tim Spiers, to Liam and producer Charlie in the booth, and you on YouTube or listening on a podcast. It's been special having you with us. We will return, as mentioned, very, very soon. Hope you'll be joining us for that. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye.